Well, good morning from Jamaica Beach, Texas, on the west end of sunny Galveston Island. Happy New Year, everybody. Today is Wednesday, January the 4th, and we spent the last 2 weeks in Poland visiting family for Christmas and New Year's. And while we were away, we had some pretty bad weather as far as Gulf Coast standards go. It got down to in the low 20s for a couple of days, and we had one day of really high winds, 40, 50 mile an hour winds. Now, I put a lot of my potted plants, as many as I could, in the garage, but there were some of these large pots that were outdoors that I really just couldn't do much with. So let's go take a look. And you know what? The news isn't all that great, to be honest. So over here, you may remember, we had a Victoria Blue Salvia, Mealy Cup Sage. This is known as a tender annual, and as you can see, 23 degrees is no friend to tender annuals, so we'll be replacing that plant. Here's a couple of more. I was probably the most concerned about these two big pots. These are the ponytail palms. Now I just don't know. I guess we'll have to see. This is probably largely wind damage on these leaves, but I don't know if they'll survive 23 degrees. We'll cut these back and see how they go. There's a little plant in the middle. I forget what this is, but it looks pretty wiped out as well. Over here, we have another Victoria Blue Salvia. This was really beautiful all season, but these are easy to grow from seed. So I'll just pull these out. I'll have more in place in the next couple of months. It'll be no big deal. A couple of the little blue stem grasses. I'm not crazy how these are working out in the pots anyway, so I was going to replace these, but these will be just fine. I'll just pot them up again and either sell them or put them down in the yard. And then a few others. The bougainvillea. This is not that unusual for winter. They look terrible. But they looked like this last year as well. So everything's frozen up. All the leaves are gone. It's actually kind of pretty in a stark way. These will be just fine. We'll trim them up a little bit. You don't even need to cut back those branches, and they'll start blooming again when it warms up, which it already has started to do. And the other bougainvillea, of course, looks exactly the same. But these guys are tough. They'll bounce back. Over here we have a. I can't believe I can't remember the name of this plant off the top of my head. Anyway, you all grow these. This one looks pretty lousy, although there's still some green stuff in here. Aloe vera plant, that's what it is. We'll cut these back. It'll be just fine. Give everyone a nice dose of water. And then you can see I had the most beautiful jasmine plants. There's really not much you can do with them. I mean, they're so big, you can't cover them up, and I just didn't even try. My neighbors covered up some of the ones downstairs around the base. Hopefully it kept the plants alive, but you can see they got pretty beat up by the winter and the wind and the cold. I lost some. I lost all my jasmine when it got down to 20 degrees for, gosh, almost a week back in 2020. We'll see if 2 days of freezing temperatures knock these out. It remains to be seen, but we'll go take a look downstairs next, and it's just as grim. Now over on this side of the house, you can see I've got quite a bit of freeze damage as well. The first plant we'll talk about, this is a tropical Ixora, and this is actually a plant that survived the 2020 freeze. It was in the ground over on this side of the house, and it had died back to the ground. I dug it up and potted it up, and it came back no problem. And so I'll just cut this guy back, and as you can see, it's still got some greenery down at the bottom. So even though it's a tropical plant, these guys are really hardy. And so, you know, being in a pot is more of a challenge than being in the ground. It gets colder. But, you know, I've got some greenery at the bottom, and I think it'll be okay. Now, here's a row of birds of paradise. And they don't look great now, but you know what? They're really well established. They survived the 2020 freeze. And so I suspect they'll be just fine now. I'll cut them back, and this one even still looks pretty good. It's over, had a little more shelter from the wind. The two on the end were just getting hammered by the north wind. This one had a little bit more shelter. Even that column probably helped out quite a bit. So the birds of paradise should be just fine. We'll cut them back. Now these jasmine, I just don't know. I hope they survive. They bloom in April, so I just don't know. We'll have to see how they do. More birds of paradise. Everything looks really lousy, unfortunately. More birds of paradise. This is a giant leopard plant, and you can see, bam. It got really hammered, but it's already coming back. There's some greenery in the bottom, so this is a tough guy. It doesn't mind the cold weather. It doesn't care for freezing weather, as you can see, but looks like it survived. More Mealy Cup Sage, and I'm just looking at this for the first time this morning. because we got back late last night and it was dark, so I didn't even look at the plants. But gosh, 23 degrees and I've got new growth at the bottom. So, this mealy cup sage, Victoria Blue Salvia, listed as a tender perennial, but almost every one of these plants, if not all of them, has new growth at the bottom. So boom, we just cut them off and we'll be good to go. Got a nice established root system. Lemon tree, not so good. It is finally starting to produce some really pretty leaves, and along comes 23 degrees, and I guess we'll see if it survives. Oh, my cute little hummingbird feeder. I didn't think to empty the water. Mistake on my part, and it broke. We'll have to replace that. Let's see what's on the other side. Now, I had some hibiscus plants in this large planter. This is going to be solid zinnias and annual flowers this year. Does not look so good. This also survived the 20-degree deep freeze back in 2020, so perhaps we just cut this back. I was gonna move it out of this bed anyway, so it'll just make it easier. I'll cut it way back and I'll pot it up, and it'll probably do just fine. Some random dead stuff through there. Over here, this is a Copper Canyon daisy. It's kind of interesting looking with all of the dead foliage. I was about to cut this back anyway, so we'll cut it back. I think it'll survive. You can grow this in Austin, which gets a lot colder on a regular basis than here. So it was time to trim it up anyway. So we'll cut this guy back. It's kind of pretty in its frozen state right now. Over here is if you've watched any of my videos, you know that this Mexican oleander is one of my favorite plants that I grow. Poor guy, looks pretty bad. Now this is also another plant that came back from the root after the 2020 freeze. So it's even more well established now. So we'll just cut back these dead branches, and I'll bet it survives just fine. Down below, some hit and miss. The oregano looks pretty beat up. It wasn't very well established. Oh, so those are some black-eyed Susans. They're doing okay. There's another little clump of black-eyed Susan. That's a cone flower in the back. These are Mexican irises, the three along the back that are looking nice and dead. No idea how they handle freezes. But I'll have some wildflowers in the spring. That's cool. That survived. These guys were already had died back at the end of the summer. This is mist flower, so these have no problems. I'll just trim these back, all the dead branches, and they'll bounce back, no problem. Now this is another citrus tree. This is also lemon. Doesn't look so good. No idea how that will do. A new bed that I put in. There were some more of those salvias, and these guys were really getting hammered by the wind, but also new growth. So I'm impressed with how well these guys held up. Thyme, looks like 2 of the 3 here survived. One of them is just missing, so one of the thyme just probably got uprooted by the wind. The grass is no problem. They'll bounce back. Oh no, there were only 2 thyme on each side, so they're fine. So there's 2 more on this side, more of those salvias. The gardens got pretty much wiped out, although check out the cilantro. I mean, it doesn't look great, but it's still here. So the cilantro was left uncovered. There's 3 more cilantro plants over there, so at least we have something fresh in the garden. The tomatoes, of course, didn't expect those to survive. More cilantro, so this will bounce back quickly. Over here we have thyme. It's a little windburn, but you know what? It doesn't mind. It'll do just fine. The rosemary plant got kind of beat up, which is sad. I had trouble getting a rosemary plant established, and it'll be fine though. It's got nice green stuff down below. We'll just cut this back and it'll bounce back. Chives, of course, don't mind the weather. Bring it on, they say, right? Chives look good. More cilantro. I had lettuce over here. Excuse the quick movement. Had lettuce and arugula, and it's just literally gone. So froze to the ground, disappeared. These are some iris grass plants, some African irises, and they survived the 20-degree freeze. And you can see they got beat up by the wind and the cold. They're kind of neat looking in this state, you know. So I probably won't even have to cut these back too much. Give them a little haircut and they'll be fine. But they survived, no problem. And what else is going on over here? I had beautiful broccoli when I left, and I had this harebrained idea that it might still be okay. Yeah, you can see the broccoli. Rest in peace, broccoli. We'll plant some more in the spring. These were some, gosh, I forget what plants these were. A friend gave them to me, and I moved them around a couple times, and I'm afraid that 20 degrees might have been the final blow. Tomatoes are some more broccoli over there that didn't survive, obviously, but that's what happens. Once in a while, we get these 20-degree freezes here in Jamaica Beach, and while it's a fantastic place to grow things year round, we get harsh weather, and it's been a bit of a challenging run for the 5 years that we've been here. 2 deep freezes, we've had a couple of floods, and so while majority of the year it's a fantastic place to grow, we have our challenges here as well. Anyway, that's an update from the freeze. Feel free to comment or ask any questions. Don't forget to subscribe if you're enjoying this content. We're up to 100 subscribers, so I'm really happy. Hope these videos have been useful for you. I'll be getting I'll have a lot of videos getting up and running in the very near future with all the spring seeding and planting. So if there's any topic you're interested in, feel free to post a comment or send an email, and I'll do my best to accommodate. Anyway, have a great day. Have a fantastic new year, and we will talk again soon.